Hey, I'm Amy Rosenberg, your host of PR Talk, a podcast about marketing and PR produced by Veracity, a boutique marketing agency based in Portland, but we work all over the place because PR is not about connections, it's about doing it right, and that's what this podcast is about. We're sponsored by PRSA Oregon because, well, they also want to help PR people. Networking, mentorship, skill building, professional development. Check out prsaoregon.org to see how membership can help you grow and connect.
We get so many pitches that are just irrelevant.
We want ideas and we want stories. We don't want press releases.
PR people are great and they plan in advance.
Hi, everyone. So I have Mike Rosenberg here today on the pod. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Amy.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
So for listeners who have not diligently listened to every single episode, I can't believe it. Just kidding. Mike Rosenberg is my business partner / life partner. And so sometimes I like to bring Mike on the pod just to kind of catch up. And today we are going to talk about, well, we're kind of just taking a breath because it was coronavirus.
Yeah, pandemic and wildfires and lots going on with social justice. It's been a pretty crazy 2020, right? We got an election coming up, all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah. Oh God, I forgot about the election. So it's been 6 months, which is absolutely insane to think that all this started 6 months ago. Because it doesn't really feel like it started that long ago. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I as I talk about it or type about it or whatever, it's like, yeah, in the last several months, six months, I think you said that earlier today, and it's like, yeah, wow. It doesn't feel like it to me either. I mean, it feels like time has gone by really fast, but also really slow, kind of at the same time. It's been just like for everybody else, it's been kind of an odd time.
Yeah, it's been odd, but this is going to sound really weird, but in a way, I know there's a lot of suffering out there, and we can talk about that, especially even with today, with like me complaining about power outages when like, oh, there's fires raging and I'm not in evacuation state and everything.
Yeah, it's all relative.
But yeah, let me just complain about that.
It's all relative.
I mean, seriously though. Okay, so first it's coronavirus.
Right.
Then social justice, which it should be.
Right.
Okay. But we also don't need all these, all of this.
Well, if you're listening from outside and don't know where we are physically, we're in Portland, Oregon, which has been in the news a lot. So we have had some extra compared to some parts of the country, I suppose.
Yeah. There's just a lot happening. I mean, it's violence. That's what we don't need. We need protests. We just don't need violence. But it is what it is. And again, we're lucky. We do not live downtown.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And then now there's fires that are raging in the West.
Right.
And
like
now
the worst ever.
Hitting us, not really us, because we are in Portland. We're in the south part of Portland, not downtown. But, the sky is orange. We had...
Or black.
Yeah. And we had a power outage last night, for 24 hours.
36 hours.
So we had to clean out the fridge. That was my big thing. Yeah. It was bugging me. Mike was like, whatever. But I was just like, I can't handle this. So we got that done. So now I feel a lot better. But in general, I was going to say, yeah, this has kind of been glorious for me.
I just had this really random thought looking at our recording equipment. Next time the power goes out, this just uses batteries. So we could just podcast. We could just record episodes of podcasts over and over, if we don't have the power to use the internet.
Note to self. We should totally do that. But yeah, so going back to I think it'd be interesting to kind of talk about where we were 6 months ago, what it was like, and then what it's like now. And so 6 months ago when this first hit, everybody was really worried about, number one, the pandemic. That's
right.
What we should be worried about. But then I was more selfishly worried about the school stuff because we have two. I always call them little kids. Mike laughs because he doesn't think they're little anymore.
Well, middle school age kids aren't little.
But I have to care for them, even though if it's not like manually care for them, I care for them. Well, it's just kind of a pain. I was really, really worried about if somebody had said, okay, first of all, when I heard that there was not going to be school for just 2 weeks, 2 extra weeks in March, I flipped out, kind of.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, it's the new normal, right? I mean, everybody has adapted. I've actually been really amazed by, at least from our experience, how we were able to adapt, how our clients were able to adapt. I mean, I guess it's sort of part of the human race is evolving and adapting. But I've been super impressed, 90% of the time with people's ability to just sort of move forward and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy that then they didn't have school the rest of the year. And then, oh, wait. Now they don't have school still. So we have that we're dealing with, which has been weird. And a lot of our clients have kids. So it's been really weird for them too.
Right.
And not as weird or for us as for them because some of them are single parents.
Right.
So we don't have to deal with that. And some of them have little kids, like really little kids.
Yeah, like actually little kids.
Like one of our clients.
Can't let them just do school in their room by themselves.
One of our clients' babies a client had a baby,
right,
like literally during COVID-19. So that's kind of like, oh, wow. There's a lot of other things to worry about with health with them. They were really worried about it, but everything worked out.
That's good.
So anyway, originally it was like, wow, everybody kind of freaked out. Even clients that didn't have kids were freaking out just about everything in general, about how all of this is going to affect everything with the markets and everything. And it seems like it's kind of worked out, like it's steadied out. I mean, you might be able to tell which markets we really work in if you're seeing that it's steadied out. If I'm saying that, where we typically work is e-commerce, meaning these are our clients, e-commerce, real estate, and manufacturing. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. So we actually were fine. Like Veracity as an agency because we have essential industries. Right. We are lucky. Now, e-commerce, no one's going to call that an essential industry because it's just online and it is what it is. But nobody's stopping online.
Right.
And we can talk about online marketing for anyone who's listening because a lot has opened up for this. Like, it was really interesting that a lot opened up for the smaller retailers when Amazon and Walmart and the big retailers stopped. They couldn't advertise. Well, they stopped advertising other things like golf clubs, let's say.
Right. They were only doing essential items, right?
Yeah. And so then the smaller golf club manufacturers were able to step up and actually, if they were online, take advantage of that and sell a little bit more possibly. Yeah.
There are definitely some opportunities that came out of this that weren't there before. And I think that the companies that were and still are able to capitalize on those. I mean, it's kind of trial by fire, but you're in such a better space hopefully, at some point we'll get back to whatever some sort of normal, at least in the commerce world, is. People start actually going places and doing things a little bit more than they are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it seems like everyone kind of freaked out for a little bit, but then it kind of calmed down. And then what we were doing during that freak out was we were over-servicing our clients, which we were happy to.
Right.
Because that's just what they needed at that time. And so we went above and beyond giving them extra pieces. So typically for our clients, we'll say, you have X pieces of collateral that will deliver to you per month. But it's like, it felt like it was all hands on deck. So we were over delivering in that sense. And then strategically under delivering in possibly the press sense because we were not interested. And no, you're giving me a funny face. Well, there wasn't anything to say press-wise. No, we had some press coming to us that we were not interested in speaking to for clients, meaning our clients were not interested. So we had to be strategic about what we were going to respond to and whatnot, and then respond appropriately. I mean, we never say no comment. But so, yeah, we had it was a lot of over delivery.
Yeah. Well, and, I think I was thinking of right in the beginning with sort of the where the media world was at that time. And, unless you were specifically saying something that was really, really relevant to COVID, it didn't make sense. And and I think we had a couple podcast episodes that kind of went into this. You were just coming from a point of here's what we're doing to help. Here's how you're able to do business with us if all, like you said, our clients stayed open for business, but letting people know how they're doing it, how it's safe, and that was all of the messaging in the first 2-3 months, really.
Yeah, I guess. It's just kind of
external.
You
media
mean for
type stuff.
Press stuff? Yeah. So it's kind of like updating the press on where we are and how it's going with our individual, like each market,
right,
or vertical industry that the client is in,
and kind of doing a lot of that internally as well.
Yeah, I guess internal relations, but with the press, it was updating them, but then also just being available for them if they were, because they were also busy, So like my key phrase I keep saying is half of America's newsroom has been furloughed. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm a PR person. Okay, dramatic, but that affects the newsrooms, and so they need our help now. So it's not that nice of me to say, well, I don't respond to everything that I don't want to respond to for each client, but at the end of the day, that's not always true. I mean, there's some workarounds there to provide for the press.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the percentage, but going back to, the very beginning, it felt like 50% of them were furloughed. I mean, and those that weren't, the sports reporters were covering COVID. Well, everybody was covering COVID. There weren't the typical beats, I guess is what it was. And again, yeah, I remember, half the emails that went out would come back, hey, I'm furloughed for, X amount of time, or et cetera, or I'm not covering my beat. I'm helping out where I can. So, but yeah, I think a lot of the world did that, and is kind of still currently doing that. It's, I'll help where I can, whether it's my expertise or not.
So also, you mentioned internal marketing. So there was a lot of that, like internal communications happening in the beginning, where let's see. So yeah, I mean, some clients did have to, unfortunately, let people go. So we had to have a few, helping with some messaging there. But most clients, it was like, yeah, we're needing to tell our staff that everything's fine.
Right.
And talking to the staff about how to move toward a digital workforce, which now that's something we can talk about.
Yeah,
which is
how that's changed a little bit.
How our client relations have changed.
Yeah.
How is that?
Well, I mean, you're much more involved on a day-to-day basis with the clients than I am. But what I have seen when I'm involved, well, the one thing I just want to is give kudos for the folks that work with us internally, our staff folks, because it was like not missing a beat. I think part of that comes that we have remote experience coming into this, so it wasn't hard, but it was pretty. Like I said, nobody missed a beat on our side, so that was great. If our folks even listen to our podcast, that's a little shout out to them. But on the client side, I mean, I want to hear what you have to say about this a lot more than what I do. But it seemed to me that we actually kind of sort of see them more than we used to, and by see I mean like we see them over video. Those weekly conference calls, which I personally kind of despise, just the technical piece of that where you're conference calling and talking over people, and it happens a little bit in Zoom too, but not nearly as bad because you have that visual cue. So I mean, I think in general, regardless of how people go back to work, whether it's in person, full-time, part-time, et cetera, this ability for everybody to utilize video conference much easier and start to be more comfortable with it is one of the positives that's going to come out of this.
Well, it's huge. So I'm never going to the gym again. I mean, just FYI, because I've been doing so. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a fun thing to talk about at the end, is like fun things that have changed, because I'm doing well, so are you. I've gotten you into the online workouts.
Yeah, I'm going back, by the way.
to the gym. You're like, I gotta get away from you. But anyway, about the client, yeah, it's just been a little, it's interesting to see what it is. I've noticed is our clients are kind of molding into or melding into our culture, Veracity's culture. So we have always had a physical office for us, but our staff has a lot of times been remote. So our culture has been remote, and it's just kind of like honestly, it's kind of a better culture because, we think that everybody's an adult and we don't need to we're not bankers. We don't need to work 9 to 5. We actually,
right.
Because, we're working actually on Sunday of Labor Day. And my client was actually,
right.
And the press was, literally, The press was. And then last weekend we were prepping for this interview. It is what it is. And our clients have just kind of melded into that. One concern actually began to be that we were working all the time. Mm-hmm. And I noticed and then I noticed I might have been demanding too much from my clients as well. We were calling them, we did call them, on the weekends a few times. We were worried about our state going into stay at home. And so what is that? We didn't know really what that meant for our clients. So we were talking to them on the weekend about that.
Right.
And it's like, God, it kind of occurred to me, maybe, they don't need to be bothered. We all need work-life balance. And so I think a lot of us, not just our clients, but just in the media and social media have really said, hey, you know what? We need to protect our time, our headspace, and our emotional space, and home as well.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to just put your head down and spend all your, roll out of bed and get in front of the computer and, do it all day. And then all of a sudden you've sat there for hours and hours and haven't had that balance that you need.
Yeah. And what's been cool about videos is now I guess we're doing the podcast on video.
But not this one.
Because I'm not in the mood to shower. It's like I can only do so much. We've been doing Zoom podcasts. I roll my eyes only because I just don't know how the sound is. So if it's annoying to people, let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to see myself. So it's like, but honestly, I've noticed though, the podcasts feel better, like more meaningful when you can see someone. Mm-hmm. It's really weird. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they're more powerful conversations, but I'm in the conversation, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I think you're, listening to them, I would agree with that. We started out with, this podcast, the way it's evolved, not only in the last 6 months, but over the last 3 years, it started out in person. Right. It was pretty much 100% in person.
Which was nerve-wracking, by the way.
Oh, I think it's way better. It's just such less of a time commitment, too, for everybody to not have to get together. It's great every once in a while, but I think moving it virtually made a lot of sense. And ideally, even after we get out of this, we'll keep it that way. Hopefully the sound quality works. If not, we'll find another way to make it sound better and still do it via video conference.
I just worry because when I use Audacity, I can see the sound levels and I know what's happening because it tracks it through bars for you.
You mean Zencaster?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I don't know. So yeah, anyway, so
the tech.
Okay, so with this new not going anywhere, I have noticed. So first this is what I meant when I said it's glorious.
Right.
I don't have to go anywhere, which for me, it's great because I can get more done.
You don't have a commute time.
There's that. And then I don't have to go to parties.
No lunches and coffees.
I don't know.
No parties.
Well, it seems like I'm social, but it's like I don't want to leave my house a lot of times.
Well, not when there's a pandemic going on.
Or ever, especially in the winter. Oh, I hate leaving in the dark. So also I was worried about the time commitment with not having school.
Yeah.
But so anyway, we're going somewhere with this, guys. Sorry. We have gotten
during this pandemic, you have spent a lot of time doing what?
Well, it occurred to me because I have more time that I don't have to We don't have to drive the kids around and blah, blah, blah. I finished my book.
Finished your book.
Like totally finished it.
Yeah, it's done. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you probably heard a couple times Amy talk about her book. And it was always in writing process. Well, it's already gone to the editor. So
okay. It's done, but it's not ready for you to read.
It's not published.
It's done though. I'm done with it, except I just got the editor back from the editor. So we'll see about that. But
it's like another COVID baby.
Yeah. So I was able to do it through only working on it an hour a day every morning. That's it.
It's amazing what you can accomplish.
Well, that's how I was able to do it. So it's kind of a morning routine with coffee.
Yeah.
So do you have any new projects that you have done?
Well, I mean, we did some minor stuff. We did a minor refresh of the website, which was kind of cool, and kind of honed in on our marketing, and spent some time figuring out what new clients we want, what type of new clients we want to work with, and the industries that we succeed at. So what type of clients do we want to work with? Well, we determined it in that we went like manufacturing and industry, folks in and around the real estate world, so real estate and finance and that sort of stuff, and then into nutrition and wellness. Yeah. Fun stuff. Yeah. Oh, we did have that little also craziness in the beginning with a couple project clients that were like in COVID. And so we were going crazy with that. That was kind of fun. Yeah. So we had like a COVID software. Random. Right. And then we had a COVID. Well, this was actually kind of like, we had like an aging website, like caretaker website. Yes, caretaker. For people taking care of aging people and how to stay safe. That was a lot of the stuff we were helping with during COVID. And we got a lot of press interviews for her. That was fun. So yeah, but we've done a couple other cool things. We've done a few presentations, couple on podcasting. It's like everyone wants to hear about podcasting, which is interesting. So the summer flew by, which was good. I think we were worried about not having enough to do, but we, with no programming for the kids, but we took them on some trips. So that was nice. If you're going to work from home, you might as well work from home by a lake or something like that. Yeah, but luckily now we have staff that can help us too. That is very on top of it. So we have felt, that there's been some space to enjoy our lives now that we're growing, and so that we can have some staff helping us. Right. So we went on some trips, and then now it's back to business. September. Yep. Labor Day's behind us. So I don't know where to go from here in terms of where the world's going to go. I think, this might have changed us for the good. Well, we'll see. I guess so. Kind of wrapping up this episode, I would ask you, what is the biggest lesson that you learned over the past 6 months or so, since we've run into this pandemic? So I think you mentioned it earlier. So guys, we did not talk about this before before I posed a question to Mike to ask this. And so I want to hear what Mike says, but we might have the same answer because he already mentioned it in the beginning of this podcast, which is that we can adapt. Yeah. Was that yours too? That's totally mine. That's hilarious. We can adapt. We can handle stuff. Our clients can adapt and handle stuff. And the only way I see that is I think about the craziness that I felt in the beginning. I mean, I felt crazy, but I calmed down with, actually, I do think the writing in the morning helped me, even though it's, a business book. Like for me, it was a personal thing. So that helped. But, I felt very crazy, and I think my clients felt crazy. And then you see, oh, it's fine. It's kind of fine. Yeah. I mean, for us, not for everybody. Yeah. And I think a big piece of that too was not only, we're fortunate. I think we work with good people and good companies. And I think that they were prepared, and within that we were prepared. We weren't prepared for COVID because we didn't know it was coming, but being kind of being prepared for, having, it was crisis, right? And having crisis plans already set up, not specific to COVID, but just in general, I think really helped in the beginning with those sort of things. And then having clients that were available to talk about it and, kind of go crazy at first, but not have to necessarily react to that craziness, but be like, okay, we're ready. we're ready if we have a COVID outbreak at our office.
Well, we wrote a full-on press release and never sent it out because it's just how we have to work. I think our clients really appreciate the thinking ahead. So we wrote a COVID outbreak press release for one company and didn't need to send it out, but it was approved,
right?
Just in case.
Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah. So we can sleep at night, really, is why we work ahead of the crisis. So anyway, yeah. So I guess we'll just wrap up unless you have an example of this, how you've adapted or how you think Veracity may have adapted in this time, or our clients.
Some of the adaptation we actually already talked about a little bit, but it kind of adapting what it is that we do with them and for them. I mean, during these times, I think we did a lot more internal communications, internal relations than a lot of the external stuff, because it wasn't our place / our client's place to be out there saying, what they're doing and, how using those sort of messages. And then I think that, really just being of counsel. I mean, being an outside strategic partner, which I think that we kind of always have been, but even more so in times like these, where you just have another set of professional, intuitive, smart people that you can bounce things off that is necessary.
Well, especially with like Black Lives Matter stuff,
right?
Because
we didn't even get into
there
that.
is a sensitivity issue with that, and that we were pretty active with helping clients with social media posts and internal. It's been really cool to see 2 years of conversation about DEI initiatives internally coming to fruition. Not even externally, just internally in a company that we've been talking to about that. So that was pretty rewarding. And then, just helping them with no notice on some of the social messaging.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my final question to you is, in regards to this podcast, where is it going next?
Oh, good question. Why would you ask me that? Well, our next in 2 weeks, we have a interview with a woman talking about diversity marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can recap what we've done with DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, with the podcast. First, we interviewed somebody who spoke about how she goes into a company like, let's say, Nike, and does internal DEI work, right? Actually, that was in the middle. First, we actually interviewed someone on multicultural marketing, talking about how to just do external marketing on multicultural. So she actually reps like Ford and Coke and has done that for years, right? Then we talked with a woman locally who helps clients with their internal. So you can find that on our podcast.
That's Sorelda.
Internal DEI. And it was interesting. Sorelda said that she didn't think that any internal DEI needed to be marketed. Like, because my question was, you're doing all this work internally, so should the PR person use it? And she said no. And she just said it would just kind of stem outwards, right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay. But the next person that I'm interviewing, which I already interviewed her in 2 weeks.
Fabiana.
She is saying, yes, you can use it externally. So you can listen to that and see what the differences are. And I just love to be corrected, like, all the time. So especially in, unless it's from my husband. So I just don't come to our house at dinner time. I like to be corrected from professionals. Not that you're not a professional, but because I say that, like, when I'm prepping people on the podcast, I say, I'm going to ask you if it's wrong, just call me out on it, right? So anyway, it's interesting to see two different perspectives, and I don't know what's right. Probably neither. Right. There's going to be a happy medium that's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. So we have, in 2 weeks is episode, I believe we're on number 92. Fastly approaching number 100. So we'll see what's in store. I'm sure you'll hear more about the book that's coming out. You need to start sharing some of that content too. But with that, hopefully there won't be another crazy disaster coming in the next week.
But if there is, we all seem to be able to
We'll
handle
adapt to it, right?
But yeah, let us know though if there's anything you want to hear about on the podcast. And again, as I said, I like to be corrected. So if there's anything you disagree with that's ever been said, let us know. So if you had to pick between a show or an event that had PR and one that didn't, and it was the exact event, would you go with the PR?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's good to hear.
I'm good
That's
for
all
our
we need.
sales
All right, we
pitch.
can go. We just needed the
Perfect. You got the
validation.
soundbite.
We're out.
Yep.